Thank you.
Thanks, Susie. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of South Oxfordshire District Council Community Grant Panel. My name is Councillor Tony Morgan and I am the chair for this committee. We're holding the meeting in person at our office here in Abingdon House, Abingdon. Voting members are here in person as required, but officers and public speakers can join remotely if they wish through Teams. The meeting is being streamed live and recorded on the council's YouTube channel for public viewing. A couple of procedural matters before we start. For anybody joining remotely, when you're not speaking, please ensure your camera is turned off and the microphone is muted. If you're sharing anything on the screen, please stop sharing as soon as it's not needed. And for public speakers, have your cameras on when either presenting or answering questions, but thereafter please switch them off. If councillors wish to ask a question or participate in debate, as per normal practice, please raise your hand either electronically or in person here in the office. And for those people who are watching us, you will note that councillors are sometimes looking at devices, but that's because we're a modern council, we have information on our screens. So we're not listening to you, we're looking at some of the information on our screens, both members and officers. A couple of housekeeping announcements. In the event of an emergency and an evacuation being required, leave by the nearest exit, which is straight through that door just to the right and out the door just there. And the assembly area is in point 9 and we will direct you towards that point. Everybody here in the room should have their mobile telephones switched to silent mode, please, and any other devices. Any members of the public who wish to leave after they've made their presentations, please do so as required, but nice and quietly, so we can carry on with the meeting. And remember to sign out and leave your visitor badge as you leave. And when the meeting is ended, I'll ask for confirmation the live stream has ended. At that point, people who are logged on online should log off. And finally, we're probably going to have a corporate break around 11 o'clock or so, depending on how we're going. And there'll be a stop for lunch around 12:15, 12:30. One final point, this is a meeting in public and not a public meeting. So those people who have registered to speak will speak, but that is the limit of participation. So when making the presentation and asking questions from members. So we now begin with the agenda with apologies for absence. Can you please confirm apologies?
So thank you, Chair. We've got apologies from Councillor Ken Arlett, Councillor Denise MacDonald and Councillor Andrea Powell.
Thank you. We now go through the minutes from the previous meeting. For those members who were here last time, are there any issues with the minutes?
Yeah.
Right. I think Councillor Gordon Creed and I were both there, so I would like to propose them as a true and correct record. And all in favour? Thank you. Declarations of interest. I don't have an interest, but I wish to note that as part of my councillor award scheme last year, I did make a small award to Wallingford Rowing Club. I have no interest in Wallingford Rowing Club, so that could be noted. I have no urgent business or chair's announcements. So if we move on to the public participation element of the meeting. Right, we've just gone through the introductions. We're just moving on to the public participation. So the capital grant scheme for 24-25. There were 10 eligible applications for the scheme, requesting a total of 266,551. Following submission, 2 withdrew, resulting in 8 which we are considering today, requesting a total of 208,918 against the available budget of 320. Officers believe the reduction is due to the council also running the Rural England Prosperity Fund and ancillary funding schemes prior to this capital scheme launching, and organisations having limited capacities to apply, so chose the schemes with the larger budgets. This coupled with the capital scheme being open over the summer, due to the number of schemes we operate as a district council, has resulted us in being undersubscribed this particular year. Earlier in the year, we updated the policy and scoring criteria prior to launching the schemes, with the main changes focusing on increasing the percentage of award we pay up front to get projects off the ground and reducing cash flow issues for organisations, making it clearer that organisations could apply for funds to maintain what the group does now rather than being something new, but actually having that ability to maintain the offer. Scoring the project's climate credentials rather than the organisation's commitments to taking action, and organisations being able to score up to a maximum of 2 points if their project meets more than one corporate plan priority. Officers evaluated applications against updated scoring criteria and policy requirements, recommending scores for each category, providing narratives for those suggested scores, along with non-scoring comments and some suggested conditions should panel be minded to recommend awarding the organisation funding. This formed the basis of the board report that was reviewed by the Community Enablement Team Leader, I'll get that out, and Service Manager before publishing to all applicants on the 3rd of December. Note, officers have been generous with the scores this year due to the low number of applications, and applicants have had the opportunity to provide updates relating to financial positions, which could affect the score, and will give an opportunity to register to speak here should they wish, and hence the number of members of the public who are waiting to speak to us. So officers will display any photos or plans that have been provided as we go through these public presentations. So we now move on to the point where we're asking organisations to speak. We'll try and keep the questions to the end, but if there's a question of detail about the presentation that relates to the actual some detail, ask questions then, but if possible, we'll try and keep the questions to the end of the presentation. So members of the public have a maximum of 5 minutes to speak on their presentations. Now, I know that for some of these there are more than one person, but overall the organisation have 5 minutes. So the first person who has registered to speak is Councillor Duncan Bolton, who is a Vice Chair of Lucknow Parish Council. Correct. So if you'd like to come up to the chairs and make a presentation, please.
Where do you want me to sit here?
Yes, please.
My name's Councillor Duncan Bolton. I represent Lucknow Parish Council. The council has asked me to update the financial stability statement which we provided with our application as things have changed. We were hoping to secure funding from SSE, the electricity company, but unfortunately that was unsuccessful, which we reported to the council. However, following discussions with the Low Carbon Hub, we have now had to hand a carbon reduction recommendations report provided by EIE of Oxford Brookes University. We're now preparing further submissions for grant sources suggested by the report. Meanwhile, having sought advice from an alternative Optech engineer, our existing heating system has been repaired and is now fully functional, with a conservative estimate of a further 10 years of life. Therefore, Lucknow Parish Council now has sufficient monies in the account ring fence for the Jubilee Hall to self-fund 50% of the cost of installing the solar panels, for which we're requesting funding today. The carbon reduction recommendation report supports our project to install the 26 photovoltaic panels on the southwesterly facing roof of our village hall as the first step on our pathway to sustainability and green credentials for the Jubilee Hall. We have been advised that our project and our plans meet 2 corporate plan criteria, and we respectfully say point that out to the committee. We have been advised that meet 2 corporate plans: improved economic and community well-being, and action on climate emergency. The climate emergency one you accepted. It is our council intention to progress changes in manageable steps to achieve savings of £3,870 per year in energy costs, a reduction of 12 metric tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent, and the replacement of the oil-fired heating system with either ground source heat pump or air source heat pumps, as detailed by the report from Brookes University EIE, whilst continuing to provide all the facilities to support the use of our hall. Our project will benefit all the various users of our hall. It's in use Monday to Friday through the school year by Lewknor Preschool, who have 18 children under 4 years of age, and who are joined on Monday and Friday afternoon by 30 pupils from Lewknor Church of England Primary School for PE lessons due to the lack of suitable space and facilities in the school building. It's used by the Jensen Shotokan Karate Club, who have 15 members for every Monday and Friday, with the exception of the days that Lewknor Parish Council hold formal meetings, when they book a Sunday afternoon instead. Every Tuesday evening, the Jaya Yoga Club of 30 members makes full use of the hall. Every Thursday, a Pilates-style stretch group of approximately 7 to 10 people make full use of the hall. The community meetings, such as seminars for residents about using the parish defibrillators, community clubs, other community clubs which are weekly or monthly but are not regulars, and we use the hall for parish meetings of various briefings to keep the parishioners aware of what we're doing in the council and things that are of interest to them. We estimate that over a year, about 6,000 people regularly use the hall facilities, and that does not include additional outdoor events which use the hall, but the event is basically outdoors in the playing fields. The hall already benefits from full access with ramped disabled entrances and exits and the disabled toilet. We hope that the panel will look kindly on this application. We were very disappointed that our financial stability only scored 1 out of 6, and we believe maybe the update may adjust that, or may lead the panel to adjust that.
Thank you. Just for clarity, just to establish how the meeting will work, we go through each of the presentations. We'll ask questions about that and go through each of them in turn. We'll then take a break, and then we move on to how we would then score and discuss each of the wards. You are welcome to stay for that discussion, or you're welcome to leave at that point. But when we actually move to the discussion point, there won't be any public participation at that point. That's just members talking about the issues and then making a recommendation on funding.
I think we understand that.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. So I will now move to members' questions or points. But sorry, I have one question just to clarify. I think what you've just told us is that the request is for 12,200. Or that's the project cost. You have made a request for 6,100. In the original application, you didn't have any sources of funding identified for the other 6,100. But you're now saying, because of the boiler issue you mentioned, Parish Council is now in a position to make that further 6,100 contribution. I'm just checking that's correct. Thank you. Okay. I'll just move round to members. Councillor Gordon Creed, any questions or comments?
Your question was the only one I was going to ask.
Thank you.
Likewise, I do note that on your submission, right at the end, it says we have been warned by our auditors that our reserves are low. Would you like to expand on that a little bit?
The Parish Council has always worked on a very close budget, and the auditors have suggested that the budget should increase in terms of our reserves, our general reserves for unexpected expenditure. The money we're talking about is on a ring-fenced budget that's there for the parish hall, for the Jubilee Hall, and is not relevant to our reserves in general.
All right, thank you.
No. Thank you very much. We now move on to Ian Rutherford, who is a committee member of Kenyon Sport Club Limited. Thank you, Ian.
Indeed, thank you. Morning, Anna. Thank you for your time this morning. What I'd like to do is to spend a few minutes and try and put a little colour onto the grant application we've made for £7,421 to enable us to fix solar panels on our building. The amount we've requested is 50% of the quote. The quote we got for the solar panels was several months ago now, but I did check with the suppliers and they confirmed that, if anything, their quote might reduce, albeit only slightly. It certainly won't have gone up anyway. Just as I say, to add a bit of colour to our application, we've had the new clubhouse now for just over 4 years since we underwent a complete rebuilding project, part funded, thank you very much, by SODC. Driven by a small but dedicated group of volunteers, the building has given the club a new lease of life in the town. Our membership is strong, predominantly the tennis and the bowls clubs, but also an increasing number of social members. And in addition to the outside activity you might expect with lawn bowls and tennis, we also play table tennis indoors and during the winter, indoor short mat bowls. We also have a number of groups within the town that use us. We've got preschoolers, we've got visual impaired group run by one of the town councillors. We have a bridge club and an art group who use us. Our ages of members and users are, as I say, preschoolers right the way up. Our oldest 2 members are 89 on the 1st and 2nd of January next year. So you can see that we cover the complete range of ages and demographic in the town. I reckon we're open 52 weeks of the year, and the new building is used far more than the old building was before we had to demolish it. So I view that we serve the local community in all ages and in many different ways. We are non-for-profit. We have many competing priorities for our funds. Looking after the immediate environment, the trees, the hedges, the grass, the tennis courts, quite apart from the building itself. So certainly installing solar panels is going to help us enormously with holding our bills down and relying less and less on the national grid. Since the rebuild, we've got an outstanding loan to the town council of £25,000 presently, which we're repaying at £5,400 a year. We have just last month fully repaid a loan that we got from Oxfordshire LTA. So that is clear and behind us now, which is fantastic. So we want to invest in solar panels for obvious reasons. My time must be up. I wonder, do you have any questions for me?
Thank you. So I'll just go around members. Councillor Gordon-Craig.
Yes. So I noticed that you've worked with 10 Green Living in a few areas here. And
not directly, but indirectly.
Okay.
Because Energy My Way are a approved installer, and certainly they worked with 10 Green Living.
So my question or suggestion, because your score in the biodiversity element is quite low in the additional corporate plan themes, would you, is there a possibility to liaise with 21st Century Tame and Home to increase the, is there capacity to increase the biodiversity on site? Because they offer free tree planting, they offer all sorts of elements to do with increasing biodiversity.
Yeah.
I just wondered if that had been completed.
Well, we've got quite a significant number of trees already on the site.
Right.
In fact, we're thinking that we might need to trim them quite considerably because they are growing so tall. Around the tennis courts, there is very tall hedging and trees behind it.
Shades, yeah.
Yeah, well, you can't see it on the photograph because to the left of that, there are lining the car parking spaces. You can see these. May I stand up? These trees are all part of our site. They're not somebody else's. They are part of our site. And so we regularly have to have tree surgeons along to make sure they are trimmed and looked after. Those on the right that you see there aren't ours.
Is that a no then?
It's not a no.
No, okay.
I can't imagine where we could plant more trees, if I'm honest with you, because we are surrounded by
Yeah.
them at the back end. At the front end, I don't think you would want them because they would be neighbouring them at the Queen's Road.
Fine, thank you.
But I'm not saying no. If there are suggestions that could become forthcoming, we would obviously welcome.
Thank you. Anything, Councillor Brotherton?
Look at the solar panels themselves. Can you tell me what the capacity of the panels are that you're proposing? How big are they? In capacity, not in physical size.
Gosh,
And well, whilst
I
you're
would have to refer to the
okay, all
to the
right.
quote, and I
okay.
can't give you that answer. off
Yeah,
the top
and
of
I
my
could
head.
see no reference
But
here.
I would say that we will have excess capacity. We propose to have a battery which will capture that.
Okay, that was my next question actually, because I can see no reference in here to a battery.
Yeah,
And then if you're going to use or store the power and then be able to use it in the evenings, then you need it.
Yes.
And I know that you use an awful lot of floodlights, the tennis do in particular, in the evenings, and
They
so that
do.
will be advantageous for that purpose. Yeah.
unfortunately, David, the electric supply that we're talking about drives the power for the building. The floodlights are on a separate and different supply.
Okay.
So we would have to have a second set of solar panels to drive the floodlight.
Okay. And you haven't got space for those.
We do have space for those panels, but we are not applying at this
No,
stage.
okay, so it's just for the clubhouse, but even so, the clubhouse lights in the evening.
They are used a lot during the winter. yes.
Yeah.
Especially for evening meetings and short map, which is what we do.
Yeah, so it does include batteries for that purpose.
Yes,
It's
it
not
does.
in, I
Very
can't see
much so.
anywhere in the application.
It's not in the application, but it is in the quote from Energy My Way, which is part of the application.
Councillor Jarman?
Yeah, well, thanks for coming today. Just maybe you can clarify for me, what has anything materially changed, or is there anything you really want us to actually fundamentally look at specifically today that we didn't already know before?
Well, I have informed the council offices that our application to the National Lottery for funds was unsuccessful. They tell us that there was an excess of applicants, and so they had to drop us out, unfortunately. The only other thing is that our funds at the time of making the application are not as great as they were then, because our business is pretty seasonal. Our funds are down to 18,000 at the moment, whereas I think on the application they were something like 27. But it's a seasonal thing.
Okay, thanks. I guess I'm asking because if we're looking at these scores, and Councillor Gordon Creed, I think, was trying to nudge you in this direction with one suggested area, you might want to think about how we might reflect on those scores, what you can tell us that might lead us to do that, rather than, reiterating what we need for.
Okay.
I just had one observation, which is as with a separate hat on, I'm on Didcot Town Council, but just in terms of we are struggling to sell our excess power from one of our facilities back into the national grid.
Mhm.
But at some point is the intention to try and, where you have excess, where this just generate excess power, to actually sell that back into the national grid.
Definitely, yes. Now we are talking with somebody from Tame Green Living who has expertise in this matter. He has been closely involved with putting solar panels in on the guide hut in Tame.
Yeah.
And he has offered to come and advise us how to get a better tariff, which would involve selling excess capacity back to the grid. Absolutely,
But yes,
strongly part of
Yeah.
our plans, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? comments?
No, it's fine, thank you.
Right, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
So we are now moving on to Wallingford Rowing Club. And I believe we have Jeff Brown, who is captain, Katie Greaves, who is director of junior rowing, and Judy Collins, who is a parent volunteer. Thank you. Thank you.
No, no.
Right. Hello, everybody. I'm Jeff. I'm captain of Wallingford Rowing Club. And this is Katie, our director of junior rowing, and Judy, who submitted our application. We've been providing access to the river for the local community since 1947. We're a rapidly growing club with members aged between 13 and 92, coming mostly from Wallingford, but also surrounding villages and towns such as Woodcote, Benson, Abingdon, and Didcot. Having a strong, active rowing club makes new housing in these places even more attractive to incoming residents. We are a community club which provides mental well-being, physical health, and a competitive outlet for the old and young alike. These boats we'd like to buy are for all our members to use, but with a particular focus on youth. So I'd like to hand you over to Katie to explain this more.
So thanks very much for having me. My name's Katie Greaves and I'm the director of junior rowing and Wallingford Rowing Club, and I'm an Olympic silver medalist for Rio 2016. So when I was 13, I was given the opportunity to go to Headington from a local state school on a full academic scholarship, and I found rowing, and it completely changed my life. So it changed my friendships, it changed my success, but also it's a really hard sport. We ask a lot of our children and our adults who are involved in it. You need determination, hard work, resilience, and the ability to deal with failure. And I think I'm a sixth form English teacher at the moment, and one of the things I see so little of is children who are prepared to actually put themselves at that kind of risk. I think I'm a far better adult because of what I got from rowing. I'm a better teacher, I'm a better friend, I'm a better partner, and I'm a better mother because of the things that it gave me. And I think our passion at the club is to stop those opportunities being limited to children who either parents can afford to pay for it or who are lucky, like I was. So we've got 139 junior members at the moment and a long waiting list. Between 90 and 95% of those children come from local state schools. So we particularly draw from schools like Wallingford, St Brynas and Didcot Girls, to name but a few. We're successful. We won the Victor Durham at the Junior Rowing Championships. We had 29 medalists at the National Schools Regatta, 5 under-16 Great Britain bests last year, and one of our former juniors went on to win the under-23 World Championships last year. But that's not really what we're about. So I think our intake's really broad. Our subs are very low. We're about half of what our competitive programmes, places like Marlow, Henley, Hinksey, Scullers are. We support pupil premium students with bursaries. We've had a number of Ukrainian refugee children who've learnt to row. And we have a really high proportion of neurodivergent children and athletes. I think particularly at the moment in our under 14 and under 15 group, we do have a couple of children who aren't in mainstream education, and we're providing for them at the club, and we're offering them sport in a way that their parents said they really never thought they were going to be able to access. So I think we've been really transformative for these children in our community. I think last year at the Wallingford School Sports Day, we spoke to the head of year 10 about our, I think he called them lively, group of 20 children we have from the Wallingford cohort. They're now in year 11. I think we know that they broke a window on their first day with us. But he said that what they've got in the 2 years they've been with us, they've become more focused, more determined, more independent and more respectful, and that their academics have improved, unbelievably as a result of that. And we get that kind of feedback from our parents all the time. We get feedback about friendship, we get feedback about enjoyment, but also about independence, resilience, hard work, focus, and the physical change that they're seeing in their children. They're off the sofa, they're off their screens, and they're working with us. So why do we need these boats? Well, number one, it's a bums on seats problem. We've got too many bums and we don't have enough seats. So, regularly we're not able to put all of our children out on the water because we just cannot provide enough equipment for them. Particularly, we're restricted in the size range that we're asking for. So we're looking for 70 to 85 kilo boats, and boats you go outside that way range a little bit, but boats are made the way they sit in the water for a particular range of children. And children like these lads I'm talking about, we're just running out of bigger boats that they're able to fit in at the club. So our boats get used all the time. We don't restrict them to particular groups or particular individuals. It's not possible. They'll be out on the water at the weekends 4 times a day. We take them to races. We get them, round as many divisions as we possibly can. So they very much are boats for all. But also alongside that, we have, driven by the children, we have got high performance goals, and we have got a real ambition and a drive to change the face of junior, in particular, international British rowing. So But it's mostly dominated by private schools. We're talking places like Eton, St Paul's, Radley, Headington. And last year at the under 20, at the junior and European World and European Championships, there were no boys from state schools representing Great Britain on the team. So none at all. And it's not much better on the girls' side. And I think our children really have the drive to be able to change that. And these boats, these are the kind of boats they'll be able to compete in at those trials. And so it's something that is really important to us. So historically, we might have lost these kids, particularly the boys. They want to go onto these private schools. But we had 11 athletes at the under 19 trial in November. We had the girls who finished within the top 10. So it's something that's really exciting for us.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gordon-Creed,
I have no questions.
Councillor Bevan,
I have no questions.
Councillor John. So I think the first comment is thank you for what you're doing. That's really good. I just had one question about individuals with disabilities and how you cater for those people.
Yeah. So at the moment, I mean, one of the things we've looked into, and Jeff can answer as well, is that our club, it's quite difficult, and offering fully adaptive rowing is something that we need a lot of space for.
Yeah.
And at the moment, the location of our club in its current setup makes that very difficult. So our focus at the moment is a lot more on the children. We've got a lot of children with autism, with ADHD, and we make a lot of adaptations to be able to include them. So at the moment, that's where we're having to work from. We don't have the ability yet to set the facilities in place, but it's certainly something to offer adaptive rowing, but it's certainly something that I think we look forward to, aren't we?
Yes, we've just submitted a pre-application to SODC for changes to our boat house to accommodate people with physical disabilities.
Thank you. Right. Thank you for coming in. Yes. We now move on to a request from Tiddington with Albury Parish Council. And we have Lucy Martin. I don't know if
She's online.
Lucy is online. Lucy, if you would like to put your camera on and unmute.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, just confirming we can hear you and see you. So please proceed.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for your time this morning. I just wanted to give you a quick overview of our proposal and just put some more visuals to the dry words and cover a couple of points that you raised. So this is for the upgrade. So if we move on to the next slide, please. Just to be background, the parish was actually formed in 32, so we've been around a long time, and we're located in between Tame and the M40. We actually consist of 3 little villages, Tiddington, Milton Common and Albury, which is quite spread out. So we have quite an odd area, and the central part of that is the playground and recreation area, which has the village hall in it, and the local pub, Fox and Goat, is just opposite. So it is very central, our playground, to the parish. In 2000, we put in a bespoke wooden fort, and I'll show you some pictures in a minute. But then very little has been done in the play area, the playground area, for many years for various reasons. But we really started to make a big focus on it over the last couple of years. And then this year we redid all the fencing because it was falling down, and we added a basket swing. We also added some tables and chairs, more benches. But by putting in the new fencing, what we discovered is we had an increased area, which wasn't previously, we didn't know that we would get in such a big area. So this opened up an opportunity to really expand the play equipment. So if we just go through the next slide, I'll talk you through exactly where we're planning. So this is our playground. This was obviously in the summer when there was sun and blue sky, which we haven't seen for a while. So you can see to the left our fort, half the fort. I'll show you some more. And in the foreground, we've got the swings that need replacing. The new basket swing is just a bit behind. And then over to the right is kind of the area that we have for our smaller toddlers, babies, with the baby swings and a baby climbing frame and one of our new benches. If you move on to the next one, please. This is part of our application, was to repair and to replace these swings, which have come more rapidly to the end of their life than we were expecting due to the damp summer. So these need to be replaced. They are a key part of our equipment in the playground and often used, as I pointed out. girls. They're very key for girls. They like to sit on swings so they can talk and move around. So this is a very key one, and one of the reasons we put in the basket swing as well, because that's also another one. If you look beyond the swings, you can see our recreation ground, and on the right hand side is our village hall, and just below the windows of the village hall you see our table tennis table, concrete table tennis table, which went in this year. And though you can't see it, there's a basketball net, an area, a football goal, and an area where our tug of war team train. The village hall and the playground are intricately linked. One of the points we made in our application is that the village hall is often rented out, not just for locals, but wider community. And the children and anybody using the village hall often spill out onto the recreation ground and into the playground. So having a working and modern playground helps fund the village hall and the maintenance of that. And likewise, you get more usage of the playground from people renting the hall. We also use the village hall for a lot of community events like coronations, jubilees, Christmas, Easter parties, that kind of thing. If you move on to the next slide, please. This is just really showing the new area that we need, which was exposed, and that we now propose that we put the aerial runway, which is one of the items we put on our application. So this is just one view of it, and you can see a different side of the fort. But we moved the fencing back and took out a lot of brambles and areas which were just growing wild. And then you see we put netting up to make sure that the brambles don't come through into the ground. And the next slide shows just a different angle to which is the opposite way, showing that we have created a perfect space for an aerial runway, a 21-metre aerial runway, which we know is very popular with all children, young and old. The other one that we were looking at, the other item we were looking to put in, which is in the next slide, please, was the adventure trail. So again, this side, this was obviously the summer picture, an aerial, an adventure trail. So for young and old, but it helps people increase their balance and coordination walking along the trail. And there are some pictures of that within the submission.
Right, Lucy, if I can ask you to just bring your remarks to a close with the last sentence, please, because we're just over the limit.
Sorry, yeah. So I just wanted to give you a picture of how we're planning to use it, and this is an aerial view of the playground area once it's all in place.
Right. Thank you. Right, we'll move on to questions. Councillor Gordon-Creed.
Thank you, Chair. Lucy, thank you for that presentation. It sounds and it looks, I really appreciate a playground that has grass.
Yes.
But so on your scores, have you got anything additional to let us know that you've thought about so that you could improve your action on climate emergency score? Have you thought about that in terms of providing more shade or providing wild meadow options, anything like that? Have you thought about?
Within the actual play area, we have bramble, we have sort of wildlife, wild growing bushes and everything around the outside, which you can actually see from the slide in front of you, although it's the animated one. And we do have one tree over to the right hand side, you can see, which is an existing one. If you go back a couple of slides, you'll see that there is lots of shade, and we have this one here. You'll see that that's the actual old railway embankment. So we have lots of trees coming out right the way along the railway embankment, which runs the entire length of the recreation ground. We have kept it all grass deliberately so that we can keep it as natural as possible. We are completely surrounded by grass and trees all the way around. During May, on the recreation ground, we have a no-mow May, so we have a complete section of the recreation ground which is kept unmowed. But within the playground area, for safety and easy access, we just keep the grass down. And we have tried to use we have picked a supplier for all of these new items which have green credentials and are working very much to install green materials within their equipment, if you like.
Brilliant. Thank you.
That asks you, yeah.
Yes, it does. Yes, thank you.
Councillor Brotherton?
Oh, hello, hello.
Hello.
I'm quite familiar with this play area from the top deck of the 280 bus, as I travel from Saint and Weedon. Okay, and the fort's quite a feature. Yeah. In your funding thing, you say you are applying to the National Lottery. I can't see anything on here that says how successful or not that bid has been.
We are due to hear in early January.
You haven't heard yet.
No, it's it's a 16-week application process, and we won't hear till anything on from the 4th of January.
Okay, that explains why there's nothing in the fact.
Yeah. But it is in. We just, you will have to wait till 16 weeks.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I got.
Thank you,
Thank
Councillor
you.
Chant. I have two questions myself, which is the request is based on the whole job being done, but there is a
Yes.
comment about if the national lottery funding isn't forthcoming, actually you might have to down scope. We do have
Yeah.
to point out that if we make an award, it's on the basis of the whole scheme progressing.
Right. Okay.
So just to note that if you de-scope, obviously then we would have to then reconsider.
Yes. No, I do understand that. I just
Okay.
wanted to be open and honest that we don't have the funds if we don't get the funding to do it, the grants to do it.
Yep.
Within our current
And-
budget.
Okay, and it's just a very small point, but on the picture I can see in terms of the benching, will all of the benches providing be have sort of spaces for buggies and wheelchairs in? So it's, you know, so you only got seating on sort of 2/3 of one side. Have you considered that when you actually make places to sit?
Yes, we have. They have this drawing actually only has one of the tables in. There are some other tables which are in there, and we have another bench which is an old green metal bench that has been in the playground for multiple decades and is being repaired and will be put back in because many of the councillors grew up on it. So there is other seating, it's just not portrayed here.
Right, so then, but that other seating will have spaces for people in wheelchairs and people with buggies to sit at the table, at those tables?
We're not planning to put any more tables in other than the current one the current ones which are the same design there.
Right.
Buggies regularly go into the play area anyway, but we are completely surrounded by grass. And so for wheelchair access, unfortunately, we are not great at the moment.
Right, thank you. Any
We
other comments?
need,
Right. Any other comments? No, thank you, Lucy, that's very kind.
thank you.
We now move on to Long Whitman Parish Council, and we have Peter Rose. Is Peter here? Hi, Peter.
Indeed I am.
Sorry, it doesn't say in person on my sheet, so I was looking up at the screen.
So thank you very much for inviting us to come and present some of the key features of our project today. I'm Peter Rose. I lead on the neighbourhood development plan for the parish council, and Steve Brown is our chair. I just wanted to point out that this project is part of a much wider project that's been in formation for about a decade in the village, leading to a neighbourhood development plan. And this playground development will augment some of the other extra facilities in the village. For example, we're planning to build a new school and a preschool without any cost to the public purse because it will be cross-funded by some housing development. There'll be a new village hall with a cafe, which we don't have at the moment, and possibly eventually a community shop, and there'll be a new village green. We've chosen Acklings Field, which is where the new development will be. It's a large open space. It's been a playground for about 40 years. We've already started to develop it. There's a forest school area which the preschool use, A couple of years ago, we funded a pump track and there's a basketball court, but there's still a wide open space, which you can see from the pictures that we sent, which will accommodate the playground itself. The other main reason for choosing Acklings is that since the 1970s, the development of Long Whitman. Long Whitman's an ancient village by the River Thames, and it is long, or traditionally it was long, but the development, all the housing has been developed at the west end of the village, whereas the current playground is at the east end of the village. Acklings Field, if we are able to go ahead with the development, will address that issue because it's also at the west end of the village. If you understand neighbourhood plans, you'll know there's been a long consultation process. But once the neighbourhood plan was adopted, we then did a specific consultation about the new playground. That involved an online survey, which parents and children were encouraged to fill in, and that's addressed some of the design issues for us. We've been incredibly lucky that we have in the village a young mum with children who's also a landscape architect and very used to designing playgrounds, and she's taken on the project. She did the initial design brief, and then she worked with us and with a playground company to actually develop this final design that we presented before you. And we've concentrated more on older children. I mean, when I say older children, there are bits of equipment for all ages, but because the equipment at the other end of the village mainly caters to younger children. In terms of the social aspects of this development, I think you could understand the development of this size. We couldn't address the needs of children of all abilities. So two things we focused on. One is the needs of children with neurodiversity, and the other is on girls. We understand that girls can be intimidated by playgrounds, and so we've introduced things like a hammock swing, shaded areas. One of them's got actually a shade over the top of it, areas where girls might be able to observe before they partake. We've also addressed a wide range of challenges in the playground equipment, from fairly easy equipment up to challenges which are much more significant. There are social areas to circulate in, tables, places where adults can sit so that they can either supervise their children or indeed socialise with each other. The field is just a mown field at the moment. Once the playground equipment is established, we will have some mown areas for circulation, but we'll leave a lot of areas unmown. There's a huge bulb planting project in the village, and that will continue here. And we'll leave some unmown areas so that wildflowers can grow. But particularly there will be tree planting. We've chosen native species which will again address issues for neurodiversity, so different colours, different textured barks, different blossoms, different fruits, but also obviously to contribute to the biodiversity of the playground. So I hope you can see that we put a lot of effort into designing what we present before you. Happy to take any questions, but obviously I hope you'll think it's a worthwhile project for a small village.
Thank you. Questions from members? Councillor Gordon-Creed?
Thank you. I can see your passion and the care that you've put into it. So thank you. I have one question. Can you give me a little more information about the consultation process that you undertook, and did you? Because it says that you did, but it doesn't say. And you have a playground designer in situ. Did you consult children?
We only consulted children through their parent. We didn't feel we could consult children directly, I'm
Right.
afraid.
But you did consult the village and the parents
Well,
with.
I don't know how. I thought about counting the number of village consultations we've had, because we must have had 3 or 4 a year, every year from 2014 up to 2022, with villagers to tell them about the development of the neighbourhood plan, of which this forms a part. So there's been constant consultation. either in village meetings or in displays with designs of things that we're planning for people to come and comment on. I'm not sure we
Okay,
would have.
so that's sort of my question, is that often playground suppliers supply things that are actually really boring for the children. So if your village community has had a chance to look at things and choose, that answers my question.
And we do. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say that one of the key things that we've got as part of this is our zip wire or aerial feature that one of the others included.
Yeah.
And I think that was 100% support from the survey. So we have tried to take into account in the design the elements that came through that were specifically requested.
Yeah.
We couldn't fit all of them in, but we have picked out 2 or 3 of the key issues, and they are included in the design.
To address your other point, yes, we are passionate about it, and one of the other presenters said that they could accommodate anything from children from 3 to 92. Well, I should be having a go on the equipment, even though it's not really designed for me as a granddad.
Thank you. Councillor Bennington?
Yeah, I'd like to look at the financial part of it. It's a big expend for a parish council, huge thing. I'm a member of Town Council, and we have been spending that sort of money, so it's not, as long as it's looked at proper. But you're only asking us, well, you're asking us for half the cost. But I know that you have an awful lot of SIL money. Yeah, have you got any plans for the rest of the SIL money?
Indeed, we have. As part of our neighbourhood plan, one of the sections of that plan listed a whole series of things that we wanted to do in the village. We've already spent some of the SIL money on those projects, and we have a whole range of other projects, including environmental, social, highways, and that the money will be spent on. I mean, we haven't got enough money to do all the projects that we identified.
Never have.
But we felt this was a priority.
Okay, thank you. And it's really congratulations on, obviously you've got an active neighbourhood plan, and that's enabled you to get the some money that you have. So well done on that one.
Well, and there will potentially be more SIL money, because part of the neighbourhood plan is building another 45 houses, as I say, to cross.
Huge, another chunk of money. Yeah.
Well, it happens. It's in your guys' hands.
Thank you. Captain. So I'm from Didcot, so 45 doesn't seem that much to me. I just on one of the pictures there, that there on the left hand side, there appears to be sort of like a sort of
this hard standing.
A hard standing. So in terms of, it's going to be accessible for anybody with mobility issues by the hard standing.
Well, the hard standing that you see there is an old cricket pitch for children.
Right.
It's not suitable anymore for a cricket pitch. Once we started presenting plans, we had a number of people coming volunteering to help bulb planting. And one offer we had, and that's why we've decorated the hard standing, one offer we've had is that someone's prepared to paint hopscotch and other things like that on there, but that isn't the circulation hard standing. There will be wheelchair access. We've got good access from the cycle path from Didcot into the ground. We know we'll probably have to do some work on that, and we've got a plan for that. But then there will be these mown areas where the wheelchairs can circulate.
Yeah.
But what we didn't want to do, I mean, there's a balance, isn't there? What we didn't want to do is put a whole concrete path all over what's a lovely green field.
Yeah. But obviously parents with mobility issues who might be in wheelchairs, or people with buggies, obviously there's a road to and from. And obviously the same question from me with regard to the benches that I asked about the other playground, in terms of, I would like to see them established so that actually people with wheelchairs and buggies can actually sit at the same table. There's some good design.
So the benches aren't part of the money that we've asked for, because the parish council intends to build those themselves. We're very lucky that we have a wood charity in the village, and they've helped us enormously over the time. For example, for the cost of the wood, they built a playground kitchen in the local school, and we will probably, as the first port of call, ask them if they would build the tables for us. And of course, part of that, I mean, our landscape architect is very aware of the needs of disabled children. As part of that, we will ensure that they are suitable for wheelchairs.
Thank you. Anything else? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We now move on to the Henley River and Rowing Museum Foundation and Steve O'Connor. Thank you.
Thank you. Morning, councillors. So yes, it's a pleasure to be here today to talk to you about our application for solar panels for the museum. Something the museum's spoken about for a while now, but we are keen to progress with and make happen. I'm sure councillors are aware, but if not, the museum's been on its own journey over recent years. And over the last 18 months, we've launched a new strategy to put the museum back on a path of financial sustainability. I'm pleased to say that it's working, and we performed better than our budgets so far. And since I've taken over, we've managed to reduce the deficit by about half. The direction of travel is going the right way, but crucial to that is still management of overhead and cost reduction where possible. And solar panels play an important part in that. A museum, and particularly a museum this size, is quite an energy-hungry beast. We have to maintain climatic control to look after the collection, and so the solar panels are a really key part of that overhead management, ensuring we can continue to reach sustainability. But as well as the financial impact, actually for us, the museum's changing its direction slightly to have a much more focused story around the river, around the climate emergency, and around the environment. And so for us, really, we feel that this is a really important way to educate some of the 4,000 children we see each year about the impacts we're having on the environment, and what climate change means more broadly, not just for the river, but for the environment they're living in. And so for us to have 176 solar panels on display, working well, and be able to demonstrate in real time the effect it's having on our CO2 reduction, I think is hugely important for the young people that come through. In terms of funding for it, we listed in our application that we had 2 other applications as well as the one today. Unfortunately, the one to the energy provider wasn't successful. Our national lottery application is still ongoing. And we also now have a fundraising evening planned in March, where we are looking for individuals connected to the museum to come forward and help support this project. And so far, the noises are positive around that. So essentially, it will be match funded if today is successful. The council last year kindly supported our garden, our sensory garden called Ratty's Refuge, and we were able to match fund around that successful application. And so that's now fully funded and is in the process of being built. And so we look to replicate that process this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon McQueen.
Have you carried out an independent energy audit yet?
We haven't carried out a full energy audit. We carried out our electricity usage audit on the building. And now we have our plans now to do everything around all of our boilers and also usage and practice on site. What we know from our electricity audit was basically it's a very quick way to reduce our energy consumption, and reasonably straightforward to implement. We have very old plant on site. Our boilers are in the region of 25 years old, and also we exist on a floodplain. So air source heat pumps and ground source heat pumps aren't straightforward for us, and so it's a large, expensive piece of work to carry out that full audit. And so what we wanted to do is get this piece of work underway because we know it will work quickly and have an impact alongside us carrying out the audit in time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brothers.
No, thank you.
No, just to say thanks for coming again. I remember we spoke about this one last time. It seems like you've made progress, so well done.
Same comment as I had previously, which is about the ability for you to sell that electric back into the grid. Is that in hand? Or is that, I don't mean, is it there, or is that something?
That won't be finished because we'll consume everything we generate.
The expectation you'll consume everything. Right. Thank you. That was everything. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we now have Laura Hart from the Ferren Centre. Laura, if you would like to turn your camera on and your mic on.
Good morning. Nice to see you all. Thank you for having me. So I'm here to talk a little bit about the Ferren Centre Community Cafe. I don't have a kind of lengthy presentation to give you over the 5 minutes, just to kind of touch base with what the key principles of the project are and to give you a little bit of a kind of update on some of the financial elements. So the Ferren Centre Community Cafe, we already run a thriving community centre. We saw something like 8,500 visits to the centre last year alone. And the cafe will function as a cafe 3 days a week, providing healthy and affordable food and refreshments to local people. But beyond that, it also serves a whole ream of different purposes, reducing loneliness and isolation for a number of people in the local area, providing cooking classes, valuable space to run some of our core offerings like parent peer support groups. It really kind of ticks a huge number of boxes for us, which I'm sure that you'll remember from our application. So it's something that the community is really excited about and that we're really committed to doing. The scoring, we were really thrilled with the scoring that we received for this project, because it was clear that the kind of panel had recognised the potential that we see in this project. There was one section where we scored less highly, which was on the finances. So I just wanted to draw the councillor's attention to the scoring on that section. We were scored 1 point, which is that we have a funding plan in place. However, in addition to this, we have applied for all the funds that we need. So we haven't applied for all the funds in the funding plan because they were some contingency funds, whereas actually we have applied to all the funds that we require for this project. So if we are successful with yourselves today, and as was noted in the report, we've been recommended for £200,000 of SIL funding. If we're successful in both of those, the project is fully funded. We've also provided information on how maintenance has been budgeted for, and a contingency amount has been included in our funding plan. So we just wanted to kind of highlight those elements. However, I'd like to give the rest of my time over to answering any questions that you might have, and that's kind of my key driver for being here today.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gordon-Creed.
The finances were an area. Thank you, Laura, by the way. The finance, I did have questions about that, but yeah, so that feels like you've answered it. I was just interested in the outdoor space, because on this you're just providing seating, is that right? What else are you planning for that outdoor space?
So at the moment, the plan is just to provide seating. There will be a patio area with some outside seating, but that then runs into our garden. So on that previous slide there, you saw a tree in the kind of the left-hand corner, and there is an existing small garden space, which is turf with flower beds around the outside. Thank you for going back to that page. So the area in the bottom right of this picture is where the cafe will be built. Where the fence currently cuts across the middle of the picture is roughly where that patio will be, with space for seating. And then where the tree is in the left-hand corner, this extends into an existing garden. So there is a green space there with flower beds around the borders. There's an existing substantial tree in the corner, and then 2 fruit trees, which are very well used by the community. The plums are some of the best I've eaten. I'd invite you down to try them in the summer. So the garden will be available to the cafe users as well.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brotherson?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
I just had a couple of points, please. How do you see the balance between operating as a cafe and hiring it out to community groups?
I think this is something that we are going to need to experiment with. The initial plan is that we will be open as a cafe 3 days a week, and we've already consulted with the community as to which days and times might be the most appropriate for them. And that leaves the remainder of the time for us to be using it to run some of those other sessions or programs or activities, and for it to be available for hire from the community. And also in the evenings where we're not running it as a cafe, there's also an opportunity. We've had some interest from local families who maybe run their own catering businesses from home to operate pop-up catering from the cafe space. There's a serving hatch in the outside so people can drive into the car park and pick up their food. So in the evening, we also envisage it being used by some of those micro enterprises that are being run by local people.
Okay, my other point actually relates to micro enterprises and the local economy in terms of I don't know if you're aware of Common Ground in Oxford, which is used as a co-working space. Do you actually see having that facility available for people who might want to use it as a co-working space when you're open?
Yes, so it's a possibility. In our consultation, it's something that local people have expressed some hesitance about. And I think that's because it's not a huge building. So if a number of tables are taken up by people who are there for a very long period of time, it might exclude other people from being able to come in and utilize the cafe. So I think it's something that we have to manage and see what the uptake is like. In our consultation, there have been a number of people that would like to come and work from there. So one of the possibilities that we've explored in some of our focus groups is that we might have some dedicated tables that are available for people to use for kind of co-working or remote working and hosting meetings. And then there would be other tables that are reserved purely for people that are coming to use the cafe for kind of social use.
Thank you. That's it. Right. Thank you very much. I know we're a bit ahead of where we said we might have a break. I think that's the last presentation. Because I think the
There's Little Milton, but they don't have speaker.
right. Yeah. So Little Milton have applied, but they've not got anybody here. Just checking. There's nobody online from Little Milton, is there? No. Right. I think it would be appropriate now. It's an obvious point in the meeting to take a very quick break. We said about 11, but I think it would be sensible to do that now. Yeah. So we will pause the meeting at this point and recommence at 11 o'clock. If that's okay with members. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. I'll just turn off the camera and audio just for the break.
recommendation is.
Hi Susie, can you resume the live stream, please?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Brilliant, thank you.
Right,
Most definitely.
good morning. We are now recommencing the grants meeting here in Abbey House on 12th of December. We now move to the point at which we assess and make recommendations for awards of grants. So
Sorry to interrupt you. We want to just discuss that implementing first.
okay, thank you. So there is one other applicant who is not represented in person, which is Little Melton. And obviously there is nobody here to answer questions, but I guess, sorry, officers would be able to provide a view on this. So this is, so Little Milton is a request for finances to install solar panels on the Little Milton shop, which in the pack is pages 47 onwards. So do members have any questions? Well, first of all, are there any officer comments that you wish to make at this point? Are there any member questions on the Little Milton application? Right. Okay. Yeah. So in terms of the financial award, so first to note, which is the requests do not exceed the funds available. So as a committee, we are able to make a recommendation based on the request alone. We do not have to compare them against each other. One thing to note, which is that for those requests which are for less than 10k, if the officer recommendation is for less than 10k, we as a committee have the ability to make an award up to the full value. And for those items which are more than 10k, but the recommendation is less than 10k, we do have the officer's advice is we have the ability to make a recommendation up to 10k. So in the example here of the one I've just picked that at the bottom of the page, the amount requested from Wallingford Rowing Club would be 12,753, but even though the recommendation would be less than that, would be I think half, we have the ability to make an award up to 10k, but we couldn't go beyond that. So I was intending to go through, so this is the page item 17, or the item on page 17, and I was going to work the way down the page. So the Berrin Centre.
Could I ask that we go through each of the scores and just confirm that members are happy with each of the scores as you do that, please?
Yeah. So the first one being the Berrin Centre. So the scoring. So on community needs, inclusion and consultation. So this is page 34, David.
Sorry,
Page 34.
yeah, sorry, I'm trying to find it. Not that it's what we are thinking.
So for community need, inclusion and consultation, the assessment from officers is 6 out of 6. Full mark for that. Do members have any concerns that that's not the correct score? So we're happy with that one. For community benefit, it's 6 out of 6. Are we all happy with those assessments? Yes. For action on climate emergency, it's 6 out of 6.
All good.
For financial sustainability, it's 1 out of 6.
There's a case for looking at that again based on what we heard today. but I don't know what other people think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chair, Madeleine can.
So based on the scoring matrix of financial sustainability, I believe they recommend it be increased to a 4.
Didn't hear that, sorry.
So basically, based on the information that we provided with, looking at the scoring matrix and the finance, it would say it probably should be a score of 4. That would be my recommendation.
Okay, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, happy to increase that.
Okay.
And for themed criteria for chosen corporate plan priority, it's 6 out of 6.
Can't argue with that.
And for the additional corporate plan themes, do I have a clue?
To add to.
So, happy with that one. And the second, page 17. So the amount requested is £75,000. And I believe based on that scoring, we would be recommending to make the full award of.
Would it be helpful to go through and confirm each of the scores for each of them, and then I can bring up the scoring, the scoring formula, and
if
then
that
everyone
helps.
can see
Yes, sure. Okay.
how that will impact.
Yeah, that's fine, but that's fine. The next one is Long Whitman Parish Council. So the scoring begins at the very bottom of page 41 and goes from there. So community need, inclusion and consultation. The assessment is 6 out of 6. Are members happy?
Yeah.
Okay. Community benefit is 6 out of 6. All nodding. That's confirmed as okay. Action on climate emergency. The score assessment is 4 out of 6. See,
And I would have awarded them an additional point based on the presentation personally. But I don't think it's going to matter. Yeah.
so
What would you like?
so we're happy with 4. Yeah. For financial sustainability, that's 4 out of 6.
Yeah.
For the themed criteria for the chosen corporate plan priority, 4 out of 6. Yeah. Agreed. And additional corporate plan themes, 2 out of 2. Good. Next one is Little Melton.
What page does that start on?
Commences
47.
47. So for community need, inclusion and consultation, it's 4 out of 6. Obviously, we've not heard anything to amend that.
Yes, it would have been helpful if they told us that they've done a bit more consultation that was recent. So, yeah, 4 out of 6, I guess.
Yeah. But community benefit is 3 out of 6. And obviously, there's no elected officers on this one because there wasn't anything to listen to. Action on climate emergency, 4 out of 6. Yes.
I can't find it in the papers.
Page 47.
Yeah, I haven't got it in that order.
Or
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Financial sustainability was 6 out of 6.
Yeah.
Corporate The theme criteria for the corporate plan priority is 3 out of 6. And additional corporate plan themes is 1 out of 2. Any reason members want to change any of those?
No.
Not without input.
The next one is Tame Sports Club.
Page
Which is
51.
51.
Okay.
So the community need inclusion and consultation was 4 out of 6.
Mhm.
Community benefit was 4 out of 6.
Can I ask, could that have another point on that one? Was there a reason for the 4 out of 6?
Just being in line with the scoring criteria that
Okay.
we've awarded it 4 out of 6. But if you've heard something that you feel this morning that has made you want to increase it to a 5, then that's within your gift to do that.
Yes, I guess from me, the presentation in terms of how much happens at night and how much of the community benefits from the night use. I would have given them I would have reached for that.
I go along with that.
Okay, so community benefit increases to a 5.
I mean, 5 says the project will provide a facility that's open available to anyone, and I think it does tick that box. So I think that's fine. So we amend that to 5, please. For action on climate emergency, we've got 4.
Yep.
And for financial sustainability, we've got 4. And for the theme criteria, we've got 4. Nodding, yes. And the additional corporate plan themes, we've got 1 out of 2. So just the one to amend there. For the river and rowing, which is page 55. So community need, inclusion, consultation. We've got 4. I think is right. Are we all okay with that? The community benefit is 5. Yep. For action on the climate emergency, 5. For financial sustainability, we've got 1.
For this one, so obviously today, they confirmed that they've applied for 2 of the 2 funding pots. One's been rejected and one's pending. But they have also confirmed that they will match funds and they've got a fundraising evening planned.
And they have a good record of doing
Yeah.
match funding.
I feel that goes to at least 3 there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy with that, and I think we received some reassurances about the progress they've made. So I remember they obviously spoke earlier this year, and I think we talked about the finances at length, and
Yeah.
I think it looks like there's been steps in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, 3 is funding in place, applied for all other funding and secured 50%. So I think that goes into that category. Does that sound about right? Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
So 3 on that one. For the theme criteria, we've got 4. And for the additional corporate plan themes, we've got 1 of 2.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. The next one is the Lucknow Parish Council. This is page 63. So for the community need, inclusion and consultation, we've got 4.
Just out of curiosity, why wouldn't that be a 5?
The matrix for 5 refers to new facilities.
Okay.
Increasing capacity, so no basis whether you feel it would do that based on that.
I think it's much better of what's there already, but I think it's not significant. Yeah, so I think I'm happy with 4.
Yeah.
For community benefit, 3.
And again, what would take it to a 4?
Benefiting a greater number of residents when compared to other projects, or where the project have a significant impact on health or well-being.
Which I think applies to Lucknow, as it's the only community hub in Lucknow and it's their refuge for emergency plan. I mean, there is literally nothing else in Lucknow that I know of. Anyway. Anyone else have an issue with moving it to 4? No.
I know the other 2 members are nodding, so yeah, we're happy to move back to 4.
Yeah.
Well, action on climate emergencies 5. Financial sustainability is 2.
So I had a query on that from the presentation, but I can't remember why I thought that would go up.
Yeah, they did provide further clarity about finances that I'm not sure were available at the time of this being written.
I think what they said is parish council can now fund 50% of it because of the boiler.
Yeah.
Not
Yes,
so
and
I think
it's
that
ring
does.
fence. So I put in +2 question mark here.
So I think you have a recommendation on that on listening to the evidence.
I don't have a recommendation just because they don't have a fundraising plan in place for the other 6,100 should they receive a partial grant from us. But if you're confident with obviously what they discussed with us, then it can be increased.
But I think they said that they actually would now fund it directly from the parish council funds.
Yeah, so they'll fund, so they said they would fund a shortfall between the grant that we would give them. And because basically on the update that I heard, it was basically they would fund 50%, so 6,100. And then we would fund, if they were successful, 6,100. I don't know whether or not they would actually fund any shortfall directly if they weren't to receive a full grant from us.
Right, yeah.
So that was the only thing, but obviously you'll feel free to make different recommendations.
Yeah.
Having had historic knowledge of Luca's capacity to fundraise for things like that, they will do the shortfall, I know it.
What would you like to amend it to?
4.
A 4.
Yes. Yeah, I think so, because I think what they said is if we make the award, effectively they will directly pay the other 50%. So at that point it is fully funded.
Yeah.
So I think I'm happy with 4 on that one. The theme criteria is a 4. And the corporate plan themes is a 1. You happy with those? So the next one is Tiddington with Albury Parish Council, which is page 67 on the document. So the community need is a 4. The community benefit is a 5. The action on climate emergency is a 2.
So on that one, with the information given, they specified that they would be using suppliers that were sustainable, that have sustainable credentials. So I thought it should go up at least one on that.
Yeah, I'm going for the 3.
So it says project has given good consideration to climate impacts and biodiversity in design or implementation. You're happy it ticks that box?
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, so we could move that to a 3, please.
Okay.
The financial sustainability is a 2. The theme criteria is a 4. And the additional corporate plan thing is a 1. Happy with those?
Was there anything that they gave us extra on the financial sustainability that would help that score? I didn't write a note on that.
I didn't notice, I didn't make, right, I asked a question on the finance, but I didn't notice anything that had changed.
Right.
And the final one is the Wallingford Rowing Club. It's actually a document for wall. Everything. So this is page 73. So the community needs inclusion and consultation. We put that as a 4. I think it's right because it's not new, it's about reinforcing what's already there. Community benefits.
I can't this suddenly saying that it's not plugged in. Saying it's running low, I don't want it to suddenly crash. Thank you. It'd be very annoying after we've been through all of that. Thank you. Apologies. That too.
So community benefit, we've got that as a 4.
What I'm unclear about is how many of the members are made up of refugees and economically disadvantaged people. Because if it was 1%, they're offering it, but there isn't the actual. It's not leading anywhere. It's a community benefit, but is there actually? I don't know.
Right. We were able to ask a question to the members still here, are we?
Not usually.
Not usually. Okay. So I wasn't. I think there were a number of. I think the quote was a number of refugees and a number of people from various groups. I do recall in my, although not presented here, there was a wider cross section that's of the community that was mentioned in the request for a councillor community grants direct. So I have knowledge that it does benefit a reasonable cross section of the community.
And it definitely benefits members of the community that don't normally benefit from this activity because of financial constriction.
Yeah.
If they're the only people that do that, so yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy with those scores.
Okay. Action on climate emergency. Got that as a 2.
So I had a +1 question mark on that.
It says good consideration to climate impacts and biodiversity. And I think we heard about giving the community got a bus that moves a number of people around for truck, whichever. So yeah, I'm quite happy to move that to a 3.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
I'm at
And financial sustainability. Currently is a 2.
Yes. They have fundraising plans in place. they budgeted for ongoing maintenance and included a 5% contingency. I'd be happy to give them an extra one on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, as a panel, obviously, all I have put here is that because the rowing club obviously will be funding the rest and they will be fundraising and have a good track record of it, whether or not we would class that as secured funding, because others do an input and say obviously we've secured the rest of the funds, but obviously some of the funds haven't been raised yet. So that's how you decide whether or not you would class it as secured funding or 50% input from it.
Well, I mean, if we look at what 4 says, it says contingency fundraising, including funding plan, and there's a good track record of that. So I would be quite happy in moving that to a 4, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, right, thank you.
Themed criteria is a 4. And the additional corporate plan themes didn't score. So you happy with those 2 increases?
Yep.
Thank you. I think that's the last one of the mics.
Okay, you can just bear with me a minute to do a bit of the technical stuff. Make sure it all falls across correctly.
Are you going to put that
I
on the
will
screen?
put it on the screen if you
Okay.
could just give me a couple of minutes just to make sure all is in order before we do that process.
Take
Right.
advantage to take a bite of this biscuit.
Easy decision. Well, they are when it's fully funded, it's easy. Right.
I think it's might start getting easier if they go from
Well, it's planning decision.
do the opposite,
Yeah.
so actually a bit difficult.
That is, with their environmental hat on is very concerned. But I think
That's me.
yeah, I think we're all getting more aware of the environmental requirements and yeah. But you only go by the rules, you can't sort of start imposing the modern rules.
I
Make any difference to the overall result.
Lucy, you're the only person from the public. We're just going through a couple of calculations at the moment, and we'll be back with you in a couple of minutes.
Thank you.
I'll let this know. But you can see that very easily.
Those all on.
So for clarity, I'll restate what we said earlier, which is we can just go down the list in order and make a recommendation for award based on the benefits of that particular request on its own. We don't have to compare and contrast anything. So if we look at the Berrin Centre, the assessment now is that is 30 marks.
30 marks and high priority, so we'd get the full funding requested at 75,000.
So I propose that the panel's recommendation for this item is that we make an award of £75,000 for the Berrin Centre. Somebody like to second that? Councillor Bretherton, are we all agreed?
Yep.
Thank you. The next item on there is Long Whitnam Parish Council. which is
No,
26 marks.
26, yeah, now high scoring.
High scoring, which the recommendation is that we would make an award of £42,947, which is the maximum we can award for this one. So I would like to propose that. Is there a second, Councillor Gordon Creed? Are we all agreed? Thank you. The next one is Little Milton Parish Council. So there are 21 marks on this one, which makes it in the medium category. The grant requested is 9,060. So the automation would be 6,795, but we have discretion to make the full award of 9,060.
I propose we do that.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All agreed?
Yeah.
So we make the full award of 9,060.
Okay, sorry, I'm a bit closer.
No.
Okay.
It's a little bit bigger on your
It
screen.
is there than being able to see all that. way.
The next one is Tame Sports Club, which has now got a mark of 22, which brings it into the high category. So the request is for 7,421, and the assessment should be that we should award that, the full amount there. So I would make that proposal. Seconded, Councillor Giles. All agreed? Thank you. The next one is the River and Rowing Museum Foundation, which again has an assessment of mark score of 22, which makes it a high priority item. So the proposal is that we make the award of £44,637. So I would like to propose that. Is there a second? Councillor Bretherton. All in favour? Agreed. The next one is Lucknow Parish Council, where the mark again is 22. So the request is for 6,100. So I propose that we award the full 6,100. Seconded, Councillor Gordon Creed. All agreed? Thank you. The penultimate one is Tiddington with Albury Parish Council, where the request is for, so the assessment is 19 marks on this one. So the grant request was 11,000. The assessment based on the scores is 8,250. But the committee has the authority to increase that to 10,000 if we can. So what do members think about that?
Yeah.
No,
10,000.
So that's the proposed Councillor Giles, seconded Councillor Gordon Creed. Are we all agreed?
Yep.
Thank you. And the last item on the agenda is Wallingford Rowing Club, which the recommended score is now 19. So the request for the grant was 12,753. Based on the score was 9,565, but we have the authority to increase that to 10k. I would like to propose that we do that. Is there a second? Second that. Okay. Are we all agreed? Thank you. I think that's the last item on the agenda. I now declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much.
Okay, before lunch.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Can you finish the live stream, please, Susie?
What are we doing now?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
Go home. I was going to go here.